All right. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the most favoritist show on the internet on a Wednesday night, Pitch Practice, the show. So, this night's gonna be a little bit different. I know typically you see me here with my good buddy, Mr. Mark Douglas, and I know last week I was solo, but we got a new guest on the show, Mr. Lefty.
What's up?
Lefterius from Your Legacy Filmmaker. Lefty, welcome to Pitch Practice.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy that I could be here on such short notice so you didn't have to go solo 2 times in a row.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Not that going solo is bad, but it's always good to have a guest on the show, or at least have two people having a conversation about what we like to talk about, and that's pitching to your audience and marketing your business to conquer that local market. So, tell everybody about yourself and what exactly you do, and then we'll get into tonight's episode all about personal branding and why it matters.
Yeah, so as the introduction already came out, my name is Lefty. I am a documentary filmmaker and producer, and I work in the personal branding space to pretty much help entrepreneurs and influencers become the celebrities in their industry. So they are not a option, they are the only option.
Sounds awesome. And video is such a big medium to market with, and it's really kind of taken over a lot of the older forms. We used to only have TV, right? That's when you think about video marketing and those types of advertising. But with all the streaming services that we have out now, and the video social media apps that are becoming more prevalent than the old Facebook, which we're live on now, and
Yeah.
Instagram, which was initially photos and then went video. It's a big thing to have that video marketing out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, there's going to be a shift and pivot in everything that we see, right? I mean, we went from just using these like wonky digital cameras to all of a sudden getting like, full frame mirrorless cameras, and then the cell phone started to do it, and eventually AI is going to take over a part of the industry. I don't think it's going to take over the complete industry unless you have a bunch of Elon Musk's robots walking around filming documentaries and being able to ask the correct questions to get the right story. I mean, that would be a pretty interesting time in life, but I feel like there are aspects that, could go into the artificial game, and then there's a lot of aspects that still require the human touch. I mean, the thing that made AI specifically really, really awesome for the filmmaking community, and anybody that kind of dabbles into doing like crazier pieces of content, is that it really just made like CGI and VFX like more accessible to the average person. And I mean, there are times where I dabble into like, VFX work, and my God, people might think my work is good, but like I'm so bad at it. But I mean, I do what I can to get the point across. And if people enjoy it, people enjoy it. But yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, right? Like Instagram was photo and now it's video. I mean, it really became video primarily due to the fact that, TikTok came out and there was competition there, and people needed to kind of like step up their game. And that is kind of what like personal branding also is all about, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, you can't have personal branding without personal growth and personal development. So like, the best way that I can say it is that, like, if you're trying to find on the internet some, 90-day strategy to build your personal brand, like, it's non-existent, because, that's not how human experiences work, right? So you yourself are also going to shift and pivot your content as you get older and as you grow out of things. And I think the beauty about having a personal brand is you become the niche. You don't need a niche. You don't need to serve this type of person or that type of person. It's now people are coming to you because maybe you guys both just like chocolate milk, like, or playing the piano or watching the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight or
Mhm.
wrestling or whatever the case might be, or the crypto conversation that you and I had earlier, right? Um,
Right.
I think when you become the niche, it's something really, really beautiful, and you can kind of, weasel your way through conversations without having the fear of also losing your audience, because the moment you stop talking about business or the moment you stop giving people like facts about how to get, let's say, their first 100K, and you start talking about like your gym workouts, those people are going to be like, screw this guy. I don't really want to hear from him anymore because he doesn't really talk about what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
Um, and that becomes that's where we see a lot of, uh, creators kind of fall off the map. And, this actually happened on YouTube, I believe, earlier this year or closer to the end of last year, where you saw all those like massive channels like, this is my last video, I am stopping YouTube, I am leaving for good, like, like there were some people that kind of like used it as like a clickbait kind of video, but
Mhm.
a lot of them actually they actually left. They're not doing it anymore, and I think it's because of like that they felt the burnout of constantly talking about the same thing over and over and over again, and that's the vicious cycle that we fall into.
Yeah, there have been a few. PewDiePie is the one that comes to top of mind that has quit YouTube a couple of times,
Yeah,
um, and has come back. And I think now he's kind of back. I don't know, living in Japan, living the good life there, and started making videos again.
yeah,
Ryan Trahan, another younger YouTuber, did a this is my last video clickbait deal to sell his candy.
yeah.
A lot of the creators are branching out using their brand to then sell another product, and
Right.
we can get into that here with a couple of creators. Um, and then the one that kind of hurts my heart the most, that kind of quit making videos on the regular, is Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the guy really. But the pandemic happened, I had nothing else to watch, and I don't know, trying to get into video and branding and blogging and all that kind of stuff myself. And it was him and this guy called I Am Jake, which I met down in Florida.
Nice.
They were kind of doing the similar thing. One was Overlander, the other one was filming a blog every day in New York. But I jumped in at like halfway through Casey's series, went all the way back to the beginning to watch the beginning and then follow it, um, through. And it was kind of sad when he stopped producing, but he produced for like 4 years, right?
Yeah.
This day and age, with TV shows, they don't last more than 4 or 5 years, as it is. But for a solo guy to do everything himself for 4 years, I mean, that's every day is definitely a feat. But yeah, but
Yeah.
they built such massive brands behind them. They ventured off into other things, and you grow to know these people, and then when they up and quit, it's like they're breaking up with you, right? So that is the power of what a brand can do, whether it's a personal brand or a business brand. People fall in love with who you are for what you do and what you provide. And if you stop providing it, it's like, it's heartbreak, right?
Yeah. I mean, it totally is, right? I feel like, I mean, we're all in and around the same kind of age range when it comes to like guys like Casey and whatnot. Like, I don't see them doing it forever. I honestly, I feel like Casey and other guys like within his circle, I feel like they did such a good job bringing YouTube up to what it actually is today. where, 10, 15, 20 years from now, they're just going to be the guys that, we go back and watch because we just enjoyed that episode. It's going to be kind of like when we go back to watch, Seinfeld or Mad Men or any or Breaking Bad, right? Like we're not expecting anything new from these shows because that's it, they're done. But they left such a impact on our lives that, yeah, I will probably go back to 2015, 16 video of like Casey, doing his thing, or a 2018 video of other creators that, kind of did the same thing that I absolutely loved and enjoyed. And I think there's a lot of beauty behind that too, because, it allows you to kind of evolve as a creator. And at the same time, they're still reaping the benefits from the platform, right? Like they're still making money on a monthly. The ad revenue is still up there. Sure, maybe they're not getting the millions and millions of views that they used to, but I'm sure it still pays the bills.
And the opportunities afforded to them for building that brand with the sponsorships and other businesses that they built off of it, will just continue to perpetually, cash flow for, several years down the line.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some more prevalent brands that are in the marketplace now. The U.S. just had a major election, and some big names have been thrown around. And I don't think there's a bigger name when it comes to a personal brand than who, the president-elect is going to be, Mr. Donald J. Trump. So what do you think about his journey? Have you ever looked into, how he's kind of come up and what he's done over the years?
Fun fact, it was about 3 weeks ago. Maybe, yeah, it was about 2-3 weeks ago. I actually did do a video on his branding and marketing strategies, because I love dissecting just what these like A-listers are doing. That's my thing on YouTube, essentially. Sometimes you'll get like tips out of it or whatever, but just the breakdown of watching them go through life is something that like amazes me. Yeah, I watched him, the first time I got an opportunity to see his face was Home Alone 2, right? That iconic scene in the lobby when Kevin is like asking for directions and he kind of just like points him where he needs to go. That was the first time I ever saw Trump's face. And then it was probably a couple years after that, we didn't get to see him on The Apprentice, right? And I was like, oh, okay, like that guy looks familiar. I've seen that face before, right? And then, as he kind of, I guess from that point, he kind of like not fell off, like he was doing his own thing. Like he has like, his Trump Towers, he has Trump Steaks, there's so many other things that are like just attached to his name. And then you go and kind of, he runs to become president, wins, runs again, wins. I just think what makes him not have to rebrand so much and still stay relevant is that we got the same Donald Trump from The Apprentice as we did as, winning presidency for the second time. His demeanor hasn't changed. His attitude hasn't changed. His mannerisms haven't changed. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, and, there's obviously people that love him and people that hate him. But at the end of the day, even if you hate him, you're still talking about him. And that's what any brand wants, right? It doesn't matter. He just wants you to talk about him.
For sure. And, I know you're not in the U.S., and I'm sure our news and culture leaks up there into Canada, but I can say for sure everybody was talking about Donald Trump. Even the other side was talking more about Donald Trump than they were talking about themselves.
Right.
And that in itself is a problem, because if you're not able to talk about yourself and you only talk about the other person, no one's thinking about you and your brand, so to speak, if everybody's talking about the quote unquote competition.
Yeah.
So having that strong personal brand definitely leads into, an increase of trust, recognition and opportunities, and the associated brands that come with it. Like Elon has been able to build up, alongside that with the purchase of X and having Tesla. I mean, it just snowballs into such a massive powerhouse that how can you really escape it?
Yeah. I mean, I with Elon, that was a different story, right? Like, I didn't actually know anything about Elon until like I kind of discovered Tesla. Like, I actually discovered the company before I discovered the man, right? But yeah, it's just about being like polarizing. You get to this like the stage in your life where it's like, people can make excuses for them, like, oh, they can say and do whatever they want because they have all this money and they have all this power and they have all this influence, right? And we kind of become scared to do that ourselves. But what ends up happening is, by just being a little controversial, by just speaking your mind, and I'm not saying that like, you got to go off and do this in like malicious way or a rude or nasty way, but there's ways of getting your point across that's going to make you stand out, right? Mm-hmm. And it's what's going to make you different than what everybody else is kind of saying. You can go through Facebook right now, and like 99% of the posts, you can just like, it just spews chat GPT. Like, you're just like, oh my God, where's the original thought? You know, like the people don't even try anymore. I don't know. I've always been a firm believer that if you're pissing someone off, you're doing something right.
For sure, because even terrible press is still press.
Yep.
You don't want to have too much terrible press, but people need to be talking about you, good or bad, right? And you can always do reputation management on the back end and
Sure.
clean it up, but and get your story told properly, but the story has to be told, right? So let's talk a little bit about, how to actually define your, unique brand identity. I mean, what are some of the things that the listeners could potentially do to, uncover the strengths, values, and passions that they have?
Yeah, that's a great question. Identity, I look at identity as like the visual aesthetic of the brand, right? It's not necessarily something that you have to like say. When I was, before getting into the entrepreneurial space and starting my production company, I was a DJ, right? I was playing all over North America, and I I didn't have a way to verbalize what I was doing when I was on set. Everything had to do, like, my story came from the music that I was going to be playing, and kind of like that journey that I was going to take people on, right? But what people saw was the shirt I was wearing, how my beard was groomed, the hairstyle that I had at the time. Because most of the evening, you're seeing me really from like the belly button up, right? So my mannerisms, how I moved and how I, played a certain song and acted towards that certain song, and it's the same thing that you can do with your videography, right? Like, you can find a set of clothing that you feel represents you the most. That could be you just, women could just be in cozy leggings. You could be in a full suit. You could be in a hoodie like I am right now. It just has to, it just has to represent you. And then not only the messaging that you're saying has to be consistent, but like when you show up and the things that you wear and the way your backdrop looks, in the last video that I put out this afternoon, I literally talk about how your backdrop and your locations are the secondary main character to your story. It's actually just as important as the story itself, right? And this is why, the film industry spends tens of thousands of dollars on hair, makeup, wardrobe, right? It's not because we just want you to look pretty. It's like there's always a purpose behind that hairstyle that we're giving you, that shirt that we're putting on you, the makeup style that we're going to put on your face. So we need to start thinking about our content that way as well. And then once you get the visual identity out of the way, and of course, that also comes into play with like logos and slogans and catch lines and all that. But that's like a very, very, very small piece. Once that's all done and out of the way, then we can work on the messaging, right? I think messaging is actually the last piece of the puzzle, because when I create a video or a series of videos, the first thing that I ask myself is like, when the audience watches this, what do I want them to portray of me? Not about what I say, right? Like, it's that feeling of being like, oh, damn, like Lefty looks really good. I like, he looks like a guy that I want to hang out with. He looks like a guy who I can grab a beer with. He looks like a guy who I can party till 6 o'clock in the morning with. I sure as hell cannot do that. So please don't ask me for that. But I mean, it's just we window shop, right? So why do people always try and take the easy way up? Put a little bit more time and effort into the actual aesthetic of the brand, and then the messaging will hit 10 times harder, because people are going to actually want to pay attention to what you say, because you take yourself seriously. So because of that, they can take you seriously. To kind of end on a little bit of like an example, it's like, you want to get shredded like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Are you going to go hire like an obese personal trainer? Probably not. You're going to go to the guy or girl that's like absolutely shredded and knows exactly where to get you. But a lot of people's content is, you want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you're filming yourself in a way as if it's like the obese personal trainer.
Makes sense. And I've seen a lot of that. I've probably done it a bunch myself. So let's think about this. I don't know if this is more of a chicken and egg situation. So you're talking about building that personal brand and image up. Do you do that first, or do you try to figure out, your target audience and then build your brand to, speak to that target audience? Or does that just seem a little bit too disingenuous, trying to, I don't know, pander?
When I first started, I had like a real direct message of who I wanted to speak to, right? But again, at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about shifting and pivoting, right? You don't need to turn around and be like, hey, coaches out there, do you want to blah, blah, blah? Like, that worked in 2020 and 2021. In the last 3 years, like, we've evolved from that. We actually don't care about the pitch anymore. We care about the person. We care about the individual that's actually giving us the information. So at one point, yeah, I did think about my target audience, and I thought about it a lot. I was like, oh man, I really want to work with coaches, and I really want to work with, entrepreneurs. I got to really tailor make content for them. But realistically, what is for them? What is for anyone? If I took 10 business coaches right now outside of them of them being experts at business coaching, I guarantee you they don't all like the same things. So what am I really attracting? Who am I really speaking to? Because if I'm making a video that is catered to the business coach that might like to fish, but the next guy likes extreme sports, now my video kind of falls on deaf ears, even though it's the same person in the same industry. And then I kind of took it a step. I took it a step in the next direction, where this was my pivot moment. And that's when I realized, well, I'm the niche, right? If I'm going to film a video, or if I'm going to produce a short film or a feature film or a documentary, someone's not going to come to me because I did it for another coach. Somebody is going to come to me because they like that artistic direction and they like that style and they like the way that I tell the story. And when I became the niche and I started to film things and produce things based around what I like and not what you all like, it was a huge, huge, huge change for my brand. And that's how people that's how people have to look at it. Like, don't be afraid to post the things that you want to post. Someone is going to like it. Someone's going to fall in love with it. Like, you could be a crocheter. Like, yo, make a YouTube channel on crocheting. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and kind of sprinkle in your coaching expertise or whatever it is that you do, like we just want to fall in love with you. We don't care. We don't care about the facts, right?
For the most part, yeah, everybody wants to be entertained. And the entertainment can lead to the sale, but there is I think a fine line for too much fluff and not enough substance that to get the end result that you want. I mean, at the end of the day, a pitch has to happen for a sale to take place, right?
I mean, yeah, of course there has to be a pitch. And I mean, there are still like there are very tasteful ways in how to do it. And I think that I think it's come to a point, because like I've noticed that even in the way that I sell, and maybe I've built that level of trust where I can do this. But I've noticed that it's not the pitch that's the problem. It's not that we don't care to be pitched, because I still get pitched like all the time on a daily basis. But it's just a matter of like how you line up that pitch, right? Like I could be talking about crypto with you, and all of a sudden I'd be like, bro, I just launched my academy. I think it'd be great. And you'd be like, all right, cool. Where's the link? Right? Like you could do the hard pitch based on the level of trust. But I do feel like for people that are kind of just like still getting their feet wet, or maybe they've made their first 3 to 5K and they're still trying to get to 10K or whatnot. I really just think it's like, get to know that person, but don't get to know that person through like BS, because that is seen from a mile away too. Like those conversations where it's like, you can tell that it's going to lead to a pitch. Like I would rather just be friends with somebody and talk to them about things that I genuinely have the same interest in, and understand not to put myself in the friend zone, because as we all know, your friends are never going to buy from you, right? It's a very, very rare full moon occasion that a friend actually buys from you. But yeah, just, find people with similar interests, get to know them on that level, talk to them like your friend. Like, I think the first thing that I did when I jumped into this entrepreneurial world and I wanted to make my first handful of sales, or that extra bit of sales, I found a handful of wrestling fans, because I love the WWE, right? And I think just knowing that we could be in a group chat together, watch the premium live events once a month, possibly talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, and then be like, hey guys, I got like 4 spots available if you guys are considering this. And they're just like, yeah, let's go. Right. So, um, yeah, just knowing when to put the first move, but yeah, just be friendly about it. I think that's the best advice and the only advice. Like, I think everybody's just trying to sell secret sauces. And like, the reality is like, it's just, there is no secret sauce. It's just have a conversation.
For sure. And speaking about WWE and, branded characters in there, one of them that we didn't touch, Mr. Logan Paul, he's a frequent face on those wrestling shows now, right?
He took a back step. He was the United States champion for a while, lost the title. But I believe he lost the title because his wife was also giving birth. And
Okay.
I think that's why he's been on a hiatus, is just to be there for her and be there for his newborn and just kind of take care of the household. I do see Logan Paul coming back, but what he did was probably one of the most brilliant moves in branding history, in which any time that he was on television, he literally had a prime drink in his hand. And then,
Mm.
once Paul Levesque, or Triple H, as many people would know him as, once he caught wind of that, then he got the stadiums to, you know, sell Prime Energy or Prime Hydration at the events. And now, and then prior to that, he had like a Prime Hydration station right beside the announce table. So no matter what camera angle you were watching the event, you would see this station and you would see this big ass Prime bottle just sitting there. It's always in your view and it's always making you think about it. But then Logan Paul decided to turn around and go, well, that's not good enough. I want to take it a step further. And he was the first brand to sign a deal in which the Prime logo is dead center in the middle of the ring at all premium live events. And he is the first one to do it in wrestling history. There has never been a promotional logo inside a wrestling ring ever in history. Logan did it first. And he's now opened up his Prime Hydration to literally tens of millions of people outside of the fans that he already had.
That's pretty amazing for what it is. Me
Infiltration.
personally, yeah.
Infiltration at its finest.
I mean, I would never drink one of those bottles, even if I was dying of thirst in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's been able to push it and get the traction that he has with it is a masterclass in marketing and branding.
Mm.
So I mean, he's just loud about it. It's everywhere, putting it in your face, and it's that repetitiveness over and over again, and everybody talking about it, just like we're talking about it, either in a negative or a positive light.
Yeah.
That is fueling the sales for it. So maybe we'll quit talking about it, and people will stop buying it. That probably won't happen.
Yeah. Don't
But
go buy Prime Energy. Next thing you know, like a million sales just happened.
yeah, you don't need it. It's not giving you what you need. It might have electrolytes in it, okay, but it's not the right electrolytes. Anyway, so it's interesting that you're talking about the platform that he's building his brand on. Obviously, it's TV, WWE, kind of the partnership with that. So, how would you go about choosing that right platform to, build that foundation for your brand?
I think the best thing, to think about your brand, whether you have a service or a product, I think you got to find people that just align with like the vision of your brand, right? There are so many different outlets that, I can go to, that I personally, I'm somebody that's still stuck in this kind of, where would I put my commercial if I had an opportunity to? But the truth is like, if you really think about it, someone like me who's a little bit more vague, I can really have a commercial anywhere because I want to advertise my films, right? But like a relationship coach, for example, go partner with Tinder, go partner with Bumble, go partner with I mean, it'd be really controversial. Go partner with OnlyFans, right? Like, like you just have to find brands that align with what it is that you're doing, right? Some industries it's a lot more difficult than others. Like, you know, uh, Eli Wild, who literally just talks about, who just talks about sales and closing, right? Like he might not have an actual commercial for anywhere, but he's a 9-figure closer. He has a massive audience. I don't know. Maybe I might want to put him in like some Burberry or like some other luxury fashion brand because let's face it, the guy's also a stud, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
that collaboration would spike sales for Burberry and or Gucci or whoever he's working with. Maybe it's a car company. Maybe it's Conor McGregor. Like he has a whiskey brand, but he doesn't sell whiskey. He sells status, right? Like Kylie Jenner with her makeup. She doesn't sell makeup. She sells confidence, right? So it's really just a matter of like lining up what you do with the right brand that actually makes sense to collaborate with.
Yeah, influencer marketing is definitely huge in this day and age. You see it all over the place. It failed for one individual this
No, another
past.
one, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, as I mentioned before, we had an election in the past couple weeks here, and there was a lot of influencers at these rallies, but it didn't seem to turn the tide, so to speak. It was definitely a red tide season all across the nation here,
Yeah.
and and I find it interesting that Kamala decided to go, or Kamala, however you pronounce her name, decided to go that route and try to pull in so many pop culture quote unquote icons to push the message, whatever the message was. And I don't really think there was a message, and that's where it kind of fell off the tracks. But the fact that the American people saw right through it just goes to show that influencer marketing, I mean, it can work if it's in the right medium and platform to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you got influencers, saying go vote for this person, but the people they're speaking to are broke, hungry, angry, and tired, and you're making millions of dollars a year already, it doesn't really work out that way. So it's definitely a message to market thing that you have to pay attention to when it comes to tying your brand to another person.
Yeah. And I mean, everybody that is, also don't get endorsed by how people that are potentially on like the Diddy list. That doesn't really help your campaign. That doesn't really help your campaign either. Like let's be realistic.
No. So were you thinking the same person I was?
What's that?
Or said, were you thinking the same person I was as far as the influencer marketing thing?
No. Well, there was actually an instance where there was an Instagram influencer. I don't remember her name right now, but she had like something like 4 or 5 million followers on Instagram, and Netflix made this like really bold move to be like, oh, we're going to cast you as the main actress for this film that we're going to do. And it's going to be like a Netflix original, whatever. And they literally casted her just because of her fan base, thinking that they were going to get that kind of attention. And lo and behold, and they spent like probably 6 figures on her just to get her to come act for this film. And lo and behold, the movie tanked, and I don't even think it's on the catalog anymore.
Well, if it's a Netflix original, it should be. But I don't. What movie was it? I don't even know if I've even seen it in my feed.
I'd have to get the name of it. I saw it
Mm.
like a while back. I know that my assistant director knows the name of the film, so I'll get it for you, and then maybe we can put it in the comments. But yeah, it just that's what happens, right? Like I think we also have to like, kind of, be aware that numbers don't mean anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have like 5 million followers on any platform, but I'm only getting like 5-figure engagement, there's a problem. I think that's a problem. I think that's a red flag, right? And I'm not saying that that's how this person's account is, but I mean, I think people are they're so fixated on the number, like the number is going to have them matter for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, I can have 500 followers on Instagram and I can pay $20 a month and be verified now. Like, clearly, that's like the boldest move in social media history to show people that verification is a hoax and it doesn't matter, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's just a lot of things in which, you know, if people just stopped focusing on the numbers and they focused on real talent, real creativity, real storytelling, just being raw, authentic, natural, without actually like, being in my underwear, I try to give the version of people online. I try to give the underwear version of me when I'm just laying on the couch. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you can rip yourself apart to the bare bones of the underwear version of you, um, like that's where impact happens. Because I don't know, to me that's intimidating. Like when I see somebody like that, I'm like, oh shit, like they're doing something. Like I need to listen to them because they sound like they just don't care and they just want their message out.
Sure. And so with that, with the growth that comes along, with it, brands definitely evolve, right? Somebody with, the 500 followers that are verified are now with 5,000 or 50,000 followers. There's going to be some new experiences and things like that that are going to be presented to that individual, right? So, I mean, what would you say to someone who's growing that brand and is slowly evolving? Like, what should they do to kind of maintain it and keep the trajectory without it, falling off the tracks?
Yeah, huh. That's actually a great question. No, nobody's asked me that before. But there, if you're kind of like going uphill, you never want to just like wah and just like steer the car in a different direction or like right off the cliff. You kind of at that point have to assess your core value and beliefs and then kind of shift in the direction that you want to go in without like switching the narrative too much. Now, I mentioned human experience, right? And that we're always going to change as human beings. And that's the beauty of personal growth and development. Unless you're really having like a hoarder or like a midlife crisis, your core values and beliefs kind of stick around for anywhere from like 5 to 10 years before you evolve to that next step. You know what I mean? My thought process obviously has changed in the last 5 years, but it's still kind of maintainable in a way where, outside of like the information and the knowledge that I know, I'm still kind of speaking more or less in the same way that I did 5 years ago now, just with more knowledge. So I would say, like, as long as you're just, like I said, not just taking that quick right turn or left turn, I mean, just stick to the path that you're on, focus on the content that you're already putting out there, the message that you're putting out there. Find ways to introduce new topics subtly, and you know, you gotta like you gotta eventually get to where you want to be. If you're starting new, you can literally just start where you want to be. But if you don't have that luxury, you kind of have to like slowly steer the ship, you know? One of the best lines in Mad Men is, if you don't like what they're saying about you, change the conversation. And
Man,
that is literally in your control. So go out, change the conversation, do as you please. You don't need permission to do that. The only permission that needs to be granted is from you yourself.
sure. Definitely some great advice there. So when it comes to, keeping that positive reputation, online, we've definitely seen, some creators rise and fall and then rise again. And we can go back to to Logan Paul with his
Mm.
Japanese forest video, right? I mean, that was a huge punch in the gut for him as a creator and a brand itself. I mean, how would you handle setbacks if you were tasked to come in and fix a brand? How would you handle their setbacks and put them back on the right track?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought Logan was never going to recover from that. But you also got to kind of like, if you look at like the background, the context of that, he was just in the woods filming and he just happened to come across that. It's not like he deliberately did that on purpose, or maybe he did, who knows? But I don't think that was the intention, to like deliberately be like, hey, look at this, I purposely found that.
Well, I mean, he did go to the suicide forest, so
Yeah,
I
that's,
don't.
I mean, yeah, right. But then again, it's so large, right? Like it's so large, like
Yes.
who knows if you could have like, I know that that's what he was looking for, but maybe he couldn't have caught something. Who knows? But how I would address that is literally just own your shit, right? What to a level that extreme, what else can you do but say, guys, I effed up, and if you want to continue following me on this journey, you can. For those that don't, I respect your decision and all the power to you, right? You, at the end of the day, like you really can't force anybody to remain your follower, remain your subscriber, remain your client. Um, I think just when you get to also a level of, you know, being this entity that people want to follow, like you're really not only doing things for yourself anymore, like you still are doing things for them, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm making documentaries for me, but it's for you to enjoy. I'm not just, I don't just have like a server or a hard drive just backlogging all this so I can watch it on my free time. It's for you guys to watch, right? So there there still has to be a level of respect. Like, yeah, there still has to be like a level of respect in terms of like the things that you do and the things that you put out and the things that you say, right? Like you could be a far left or a far right, but it's like you're not going to go and like, just start being like hardcore racist or anything just because you have like all these like far right people. Like, you know what I mean? So
Uh-huh.
it's still a level of like, it's still for the audience member, for the person that's giving you your time. But I think owning it is the best thing that I would do. Like I would literally just set up like an owning it video and I would film like for my clients. I would be like, yo, you got to get in front of this right now and just like literally ask for forgiveness. Like there's nothing else you can do. Like that's it, right? I
Yeah.
think I
Yeah,
think that's the best course of action. And again, you're going to lose people, you're going to keep people, but you made the bed.
for sure. Make the bed, you got to sleep in it. Well, Lefty man, this has been a masterclass in itself when it comes to building that personal brand. Just want to summarize the key points here for everybody that has listened this far. Appreciate you listening. If you like what you hear, definitely leave your feedback in the comments and give this show a like. But when it comes to building that personal brand, you got to know who you are first and foremost. Because if you don't know who you are, you're definitely not going to be able to tell your audience who you are, right? And it
Yeah.
just comes down to sharing that valuable content, providing as much value up front as you can. I think of um, just one person comes to mind, Hormozy, and you've probably
Yeah.
heard me talk about him time and time again, week after week, and all he does is just give, give, give. But there does come a point when you just can't give anymore. So keep that in mind, right? You got to start
Yeah.
charging eventually. But he's super engaging with his audience, and he adapts to the the changing times. Right now, what is it? Info products and creating digital courses are kind of the hot thing and have been kind of exponentially growing. So what did he do? He partnered up with another brand called School and pushed that forward. So
Yeah.
there are numbers to build that brand and push it forward there. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And if I can piggyback quickly, because you brought up
yeah.
Hormozy, here's a perfect example. For the longest time, he was saying, my name is Alex Hormozy and I own acquisition.com and I'm here to give you this and I have nothing to sell you. And he was saying that for years. And then
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden, I think year and a half later, after saying that, he literally addressed his audience and he goes, guys, I screwed up. My book is technically 99 cents. Like, I actually am selling you something. And I'm sorry that I lied to you this whole time. Right. And immediately, if you've noticed his videos after that message, they don't say, I have nothing to sell you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just
It
flipped the script because he caught himself.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, you could find his book for free, right? It was online downloadable on his website. So, yeah, he was selling it on one of the mediums, but that's because he kind of had to. So, I don't know. I'd give him a pass on that
I would
because
too.
a lot of his stuff you can get for free, but it harkens back to a story that Brunson told when it comes to the different mediums that people digest. You can quote unquote get the free book, right? Free plus shipping. Or you can then pay 3 times as much to get the audio version
Right.
of it right there, right then and there instantly. So I don't know. I can give him a pass on that, but
Oh,
no.
I totally would. But I mean, kudos
Yep.
to him for actually you know, realizing, because sometimes you could have just let things fly over your head because you're like, oh, it's 99 cents. Like, it's so cheap. Like, no one's going to even care. And that's exactly it. Nobody actually cared. But the fact that he respects himself and his brand so much to the point that he had to be like, yo, I'm actually charging you 99 cents for this book and I'm telling you that I have nothing to sell you. Like, that was a big move. And I gave him like even way more respect after that one piece of content over all the knowledge he gave me before.
For sure. For sure. Well, Lefty, again, I appreciate you hopping on here last minute and rapping with me about building that personal brand here on Pitch Practice and this show. Where can people, continue to follow your journey and connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. The best place to follow that journey is right here on YouTube, Your Legacy Filmmaker. And then, yeah, if you did want to uh, talk more about personal branding and kind of help build your personal brand a little bit more, there's always the Your Legacy Filmmaker Academy.com that you can check out. Yeah, follow the journey on YouTube. I try and post every single Wednesday. That typically is my posting schedule. Um, there are the odd times where it's not every Wednesday, but I still stick to Wednesdays because consistency is key.
Consistency is is key. If you get French fries at one McDonald's, they're going to taste exactly the same at another one, right? So consistency is key to the brand. Lefty, again, it's been a pleasure. Here's to everybody's success.
Absolutely.